Hello everyone, it's Holly and this is Ask Holly Live. It's a new show. It's probably going to be at 11 o'clock every Friday. We'll see about the time frames, but I have a conflict at 11, so we're going to do this now. And basically we're going to talk about LLCs today because basically everybody's been asking me about this. I'm going to make sure that you guys can see me here too so I can ask your questions, or answer your questions. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so we're going to talk about LLCs because everybody's been asking me about it, and this is the time of year when people actually do set up an LLC for the next year, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. And I also want to talk about really basic tax deductions that people, kind of the do's and don'ts, because there's a lot of things that have to do with home office and mileage and things like that that people aren't totally, they don't know all of the rules, and it's actually pretty simple. So let's get started, and like I said, if anybody has a question, you can send it to me and I'll answer it live. So basically, there's a misconception about LLCs. LLCs are basically to give you limited liability so that if something happens in your business, somebody can't sue you personally. But there's also for small business, and that's really what this show today is about. It's for small businesses that are wondering, like, am I big enough to be incorporated? Are there any benefits of it? Then the answer is yes, because there's one thing that people don't realize is when you set up an LLC, that is only the first step. People don't realize that then you have to decide what kind of LLC you're going to be. And there are several options. One is if you don't decide what kind you're going to be, then you're basically called a single member LLC. And that just means that if you have a small business now and you've been filing that Schedule C form, you will still be filing that form and you'll still be paying a lot of Social Security tax. So anybody that's filed a Schedule C and made anywhere over $30,000 knows that you get two taxes on your tax return. One is for federal tax to the IRS, and one is to the Social Security system, because no one is taking taxes out. You're not on a paycheck, right? So you're having to pay 15.3% Social Security. So if you set up an LLC and you do not, decide what kind of LLC to be, then you're still going to be paying the same amount of taxes. And that is a huge misconception that people don't realize, that by doing that, you're going to pay significantly more to the Social Security system. On the other hand, if you're a small business, and really that's anything under $10 million, so you could be pretty big and still qualified for what is called an SCorp. And it does seem to me that a lot of people know what an SCorp is, or they've heard about it, because a lot of times people will be in my office or will be doing a consult and they'll say, should I be an SCorp? So they've heard about it. So think of SCorp as like small corporations, like less than 100 partners and less than $10 million. But the average SCorp really is somebody that's making, a few $100,000 or $500,000 of gross income. And a lot of times it's just a one-man show, or maybe it's a husband and wife, or it could be two partners that put an SCorp together. That's what I see most of the time for SCorps. And the beautiful thing about an SCorp is you can get paid several ways. One is that if you have a home office, we're going to talk about that in just a little bit, then you can actually pay yourself rent from your company to you for the use of your home office. I'm in my home office right now, so I'm doing the same thing. And then also, you get to actually pay yourself a salary. So just like whenever you worked for somebody and you got a W-2, you are going to pay yourself a W-2 from your corporation to you, every month. And there's a little bit more detail into that, but right now I'm kind of giving you the big picture. And then the third way that you get paid is a distribution. So when you have an SCorp and you're paying yourself rent, if you do have a home office, which again we'll talk about in just a minute, and you're getting paid a salary, so you're getting a W-2 at the end of the year, and then you're getting paid distributions, you only pay Social Security tax on your payroll. So that's a significant savings in Social Security alone. I mean, a person can save as much as $10,000 or more in Social Security tax just by being an S-Corp. But you do absolutely, as an S-Corp, have to do a payroll. So for me, I use ADP. Even though I'm a CPA, I don't do my own payroll because, I mean, payroll's an automated thing nowadays. It's online, and there's lots of other programs that you can use for that. But I know I've used that with my clients for years. So if anybody needs assistance with that, then I can help you. You can send me an email at holly@themoneytherapist.com, or you can go to my website and do a one-on-one on my front page if you want to have a consult after this. So the other type of LLC that you can be is a partnership. And this kind of gets a little confusing for some people because you can have a partner in an S-Corp, but a partnership is typically, most of the time, for things that are more passive, like real estate. So typically if someone has rental properties or they're doing rehabs and things like that, that's more of an investment, that's what you would put a partnership instead of an S-Corp. And today we're not going to get too much into C-Corps because this is again for small business, and C-Corps are usually for bigger and more complicated companies. You could have a small company that's a C-Corp, but typically when I have somebody set up a C-Corp from the beginning, they end up changing it to an S-Corp anyway. They usually have a big plan maybe to go public or something, but you can always change an S-Corp to a C-Corp anyway. So C-Corps are the things that you hear about that have double taxation. You have to pay tax on the corporation and on your personal. So there's a double tax there. So we're not going to get really into that other than if you're a small business, especially a one-man show or a husband and wife, and you have a home office and you just kind of have a simple company, then most of the time, just about every time, you would want to be an S-Corp. So that's about as much as we're going to talk about LLCs right now, because the rest of it's a little bit more complicated, and that's where you might want a one-on-one or go to your CPA and get a little bit more advice on that. But if you are making, if your net income is over $30,000, and at least if it's over $50,000, you will absolutely benefit from being an S-Corp tax-wise. You'll save taxes, and the savings of the tax will be about 3 times more than what you have to pay just to set up the LLC. So that's just a one-time thing, and it's worth it to be able to do that and then to save a significant amount of money. And then just remember, you still have to do payroll and you still have to pay something into the Social Security system. So I want to talk about the home office next. The few misconceptions about that is that when you have a home office, it has to be your only office. It has to be where you meet people. Like maybe you have a home office and you go to people's houses and you give them advice. But if you have a real office and a home office, then you cannot take the home office deduction. And the home office deduction is not a big deduction because it's basically just you take the square footage of the room and the square footage of the house, and then you take a percentage of your mortgage, your tax, insurance, and utilities. So because it's just a percentage, like maybe 5 or 10% of your house, depending on how big your house is, it's not that it's a big deduction, but it establishes that that is your office. And from there, then all of your miles to go to clients, networking, or anything related to business are deductible. And I use an app called Miles IQ. There are tons of apps out there. If you go, pull up in your phone, any kind of Miles app, you can just look at them, and they usually give you some kind of free trial, like 30 days or more. And so you can pick the one that's best for you. But I love it because they're all very advanced. So now, everything is satellite, and basically you just swipe right if it's business and left if it's personal. So yesterday I had a bunch of appointments that I routed around, and then I waited till the end of the day, and then I just swiped right because everywhere I went was business. But if I had had a personal appointment there, then I probably would have done it each time that I, stopped at each location. And the great thing is it's very intuitive. It actually knows that you've gone to the same place over and over again, and then it will ask you, is this always going to be business? Because there's going to be places that they're always business or always personal. So it just starts to get easier over time, and you can also make notes inside of it. And then you can hit a button, send it to your email, and you have this great log. And the reason that's really important is because you can get a big deduction with the IRS for your miles. And if you have, it's something like 57 cents, I think, right now. They keep changing it, but think about that. If you have 10,000 miles, that's like $5,700 deduction. That's ridiculous. It's because you're having depreciating your car, and you've got your gas and oil and expenses. So that's another thing that people ask me about a lot is, can you take the car, can you depreciate your car and take your gas and your insurance, or do you take the miles? Well, every time that you get a new car, you have to choose one method. So if you have a new car and you put a lot of miles on it, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs do because they're always in their car and they're always meeting people, then you probably want to use the miles method and then use one of those apps. And you don't have to use an app. You can write it down in a little pocketbook if you want, but the apps are so easy that I highly recommend it. I think it's easier with audits too, although I haven't had any problems with audits with that if you just keep track of everything in your iPhone or however that you do that. And from there, if you don't have a lot of miles, let's say that you only put 10,000 miles on your car a year, and 8,000 of them are business because maybe you live downtown, you work downtown, so you're not really in your car a lot, then you might want to take the deduction of depreciating your car and taking your gas and insurance. I don't see that very often. I see with entrepreneurs, again, that they put a lot of miles on their car, and that's why they're going to get a bigger deduction. But again, once you have a car, you have to stick with the same thing. So the first year, whether you're doing your own tax return or someone else is doing it, you want to check it both ways and make sure which one is in your best interest, because you're going to have to stay with that for the next few years. Another thing for small business, and it also comes up all the time, so it's really important, is we all want to have nice clothes and we always want to have a good image, but you absolutely cannot take any tax deduction on your clothes that has to do with image. Only things like scrubs, or if you were an actor and you were wearing more of like a theater outfit that you couldn't just normally wear outside. So this comes up a lot. I know people want to take deductions, but on suits and things that are very expensive and really nice dresses, and I wish I could deduct all of my shoes, but we just can't do it. There's an actual specific law about that. So that's what I'm going to cover today, and that's about it. So this is the first episode of Ask Holly Live, and I'll be here every Friday. And if you need more information or you want a one-on-one with me, just go to themoneytherapist.com, and you'll see the little button to set up a hour for me, and I can help you decide definitively if you're ready to set up an LLC and help you with some advice with that and how to get the payroll set up. And also if you're looking for a loan, I have a lot of connections with banks for that to help you as well. Everybody have a wonderful week. Bye-bye. Or weekend.